Well, here we go.
Hey, Arnold!
Guess who's back, ladies and gentlemen? Craig Bartlett, the creator of Hey Arnold himself. Craig, how's it going?
Hello.
Hello. Awesome. And also, just before I begin, I want to actually address a few critiques of the previous show, which was that sometimes I interrupted Craig on a few occasions, and yes, I do slap myself on the wrist for doing that. And the reason is because most of the people that I interview are politicians, and if we all know what politicians are like, you never get a good answer out of them, and you have to keep, going and going and going until basically you get what you want. And I understand that Craig Bartlett is not that, and I understand you're not that, Craig. So what I'm going to do is I actually decided to do things differently. I'm going to let you guys ask the questions instead. And what I did, and as everyone probably has seen over the last couple of weeks, I opened up an email account which is askcraig@arunmehta.co.uk, and I asked you to submit your questions to that specified email address. Guys, we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions, and I had to spend a whole day going through all of them just to try and find the ones that are actually relevant. And believe me, it was very, very, very big task indeed.
Well, we're not going to answer irrelevant questions today?
No.
Oh, wow.
We're going to answer the ones that are relevant. And actually, just as a warning as well, I know a lot of you gave me a lot of, I would say, spoiler questions. Basically, the obvious common one is, what happens to Arnold's parents at the end of the Jungle movie? And I'm not going to answer that question. And the reason I'm not going to is, if you know what happens at the end of the movie, why on earth would you go and watch it? It's like, so it's pretty, basic
I've told
logic.
Too much already.
Yeah. I tell you, and after those storyboard leaks as well from Raimi Musquiz, yeah, I think a lot's been revealed, I think,
right.
but not too much. Anyway, Craig, do you want to kick off, and shall we kick off with the first of our questions?
You bet, let's go.
Absolutely. Okay, then, here's the first question, and now, obviously I can't put the names of these questions because how I picked the questions was that I actually took the most common asked questions and I put them in here. So if your question is there, let me know in the comment section what it is, and maybe I might add in the comment section of on Mixcloud some of the accreditations of the questions. But let me know whose questions are which, because all of you asked pretty much some of the same questions, and I took the most popular questions and put them up here. So anyway, let's go. Okay, question number one for you, Craig. Who picks the voices, basically the voice actors, for the Hey Arnold characters?
I did, and when I did the casting, I had a lot of help. On the original pilot, Paul Germain, who you may remember from Recess and Rugrats, Paul came in to be the casting person for me. The two of us ran those sessions, and then after that, in the regular series, Joey Paul was our casting director, and she would bring them in. And then, I would always pick them. And they always had to be approved by Nickelodeon. I remember in the very beginning when we made the pilot, Mary Harrington, the executive producer who was running the cartoon division for Nickelodeon at that time out here, she heard Gerald. She heard Jamil Smith, his audition for Gerald, and was like, well, he's in. I remember that. She was completely, sold on Jamil. And I had the same feeling about Franny when she came in to read for Helga. It was like, well, duh, she's going to be Helga, and everybody else will somehow have to work with the sound of this Helga. And that actually really clinched it, too, in terms of hiring kids to be the voices instead of adults. We were considering it. I think I would have done kids either way, but when I heard Franny, it was clear that everybody else was going to have to be a kid like her so that they would work with that sound. So, yeah, that's how we did it.
Oh, cool. So, actually, how different is it to work with children than it is to work with adult voice actors?
Well, it's really crucial on Hey Arnold, because I look at Hey Arnold now and I try to kind of understand the whole gestalt what makes the show what it is. And to me, it's like tone. It's like how a show feels. What it sounds like, music, sound effects, voices, the pace, and the kid voices are a huge influence on that. That and I would say the music of Jim Lang are the two things that really make the tone of the show.
Yeah.
And as soon as we got into it with these, and we wanted to do it because I was a big admirer of the old Charlie Brown. The Christmas special was really, it was a really crucial thing that I saw as a child that really influenced me and made me want to, grow up to be a cartoon maker, really. And they had kid voices. Do you remember Sally from that Christmas special? I mean, she can barely get through her lines. She's such a little kid. And that's incredibly charming. And they sing. You remember they sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing at the end?
Oh, yeah.
And there's something really right on about that. You hear those voices and you go, well, kid voices are so different from adults. I used to actually have to ask the kids when we would do songs, the early songs with Torrin, who played Arnold in the first and second season. Torrin was a very good singer. He was he had done a lot of singing. And so he was too good, and I'd say, Torrin, dumb it down. Sound like a 9-year-old. You're sounding like you're a teenager trying to make a pop record. You gotta dumb it down. And when I say dumb it, I don't mean that. I mean just amateur it up. Because,
Sorry.
And they make a certain sound that an experienced singer does not. And so that's what you get. You get a kind of emotional authenticity.
Oh, cool. So when Torrin was singing at the very end of Downtown as Fruits, when he was singing the finale, I mean,
that was probably the first time that came up.
Yeah,
it's great too. If you listen, you can hear Jamil hitting some really off notes on that, and that's what's great about it.
Yeah.
It's really funny. And as soon as we heard that stuff, we went, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I remember there was the early episodes really sort of solidified for me, what our theories were about what we were going to try to make the show sound like, and that was definitely one of them. And we didn't get to write as many songs for Hey Arnold as I get to for Dinosaur Train, because it was with the age group that, the 6 to 11 age group. They're not really as musical as preschool shows are. Preschool shows you kind of expect to go to a song at any minute, and Hey Arnold wasn't really quite that, but I worked to get songs into the show. We did the opera, we did Eugene.
Yeah, we're going to speak about the opera actually in a couple of minutes. I just want to move on with the next couple of questions.
Sure.
Okay, this next question. This one centers around Phoebe. Is Phoebe half Japanese, and what does she wear under that sweater?
Just her underwear.
Really?
And she's half Japanese, although her mom Reba is from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And her dad Kyo is from Japan, but Kyo's last name is Heyerdahl, so I'm guessing Kyo is probably half Japanese. And so maybe you could say that technically Phoebe's a quarter Japanese.
Quarter Japanese. Okay, that's really interesting. And okay, I'll move on to the third question, and that is, besides Arnold, Helga, and Gerald, who else is your favorite character on the show?
Well, that's tough because it's a huge cast, and there's they're like a bunch of old friends, so I would feel kind of disloyal to not mention all of them. But I really think Grandma and Grandpa would come next in that list. Because,
oh yeah.
They're so important to the show, and they were really a fun pair of characters to develop because it was so crucial. Arnold had no parents, and he was being raised by his grandparents, and I don't know, they were just kind of like dream grandparents that we all wish we had, that would do everything. They could fish, and they're physically fit, they both can do, they're kind of like Superman, Grandma especially is kind of a ninja, and they have all these sort of secret gifts and powers.
What is it? Grandma's a karate
story.
master, and Grandpa can bench press 200 pounds.
Yeah, and so they were really important characters, and they were so fun. Those actors are terrific. Tress MacNeille is just everybody's favorite kind of old lady character. She can do old lady voices like nobody, and Dan Castellaneta is just brilliant. He's a very, very funny guy. Grandpa punched up all of his scenes so much. When he would get on mic and do a scene I'd written, somehow he would make it funnier And he'd always think of a funny last thing to say that wasn't in the script, and I would keep them all because they were so good. So that's two more favorite characters. I don't know. I really love Stinky and Sid. They're very
really?
their purpose of being there to kind of be a kind of a Greek chorus and comment on the scene. And they both had such great individual episodes. I really loved that Sam Gifaldi, who played Sid.
Because both Gafaldi brothers actually played Sid, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. Sid's Sam's little brother Taylor came in, and in the very end when we made those last two, April Fools and the Journal, Sam's voice had completely cracked and he'd grown up too much. It didn't sound like Sid anymore, and Taylor sounded just like Sam. So that was kind of funny. And I was at that time. It was sort of this sort of heartbreaking transition where all the boys were growing up, all of them, and didn't really sound like they did when they started at all. And Arnold, I would have to keep changing because Arnold really needed to sound preteen. And the others, you could sort of get away with it, but Arnold kind of had to have that innocent sound that you could believe he was 9. And so when they got the teenage voice, it was just no good. But when we were at the point where Taylor replaced Sam, everything was falling apart. We were at the very end. We did those last episodes, The Journal and April Fools, kind of with a skeleton crew, and our regular season was done, and they just really gave us those 3.5 hours to just keep us alive while we waited to see if the Jungle movie would start. And so by the time we would have recorded the Jungle movie, everybody would have been in that weird transition where, we had got yet another Arnold. Alex Lins was playing him then, and it was nuts. Yeah. So that's the
we're talking about the Jungle movie.
That's the flip side. The plus is you get a really great, authentic kind of emotional realism with kids, and they're so into it. Kids' enthusiasm for the material. They all became those characters and really believed in those characters in a way that I think, sort of cynical adults, they're not quite there.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay.
And then I'm listing favorite characters. Harold, Rhonda. It goes on and on. I love all those kids, and I would hate to leave anybody out.
There's an interesting question about Harold and Rhonda later on, so I've got to ask you about that. So let's move on to the next one, which is this one is: was Olga's life the same as Helga when she was 9 years old as well?
No, not at all. Olga was a perfect kid, and the kind of performer who is obsessed with charming. She would have charmed Bob and Miriam throughout her childhood and been perfect for them, and that's kind of her burden. The very first episode, I think, is when Olga comes home and Helga and Olga have that confrontation in her room at the end, and Olga says, "You don't know how hard this is. I'm like a wind-up doll." And, so it's kind of her tragedy. She's not like Helga, who her parents ignored and don't think much of. She's got the burden of being the straight A, incredibly gifted kid whose parents think she's perfect. So they had very different childhoods, and they can't get right about it. They Olga and Helga keep talking about it, and they can't get right.
Okay, next question. Does Arnold know about Helga's difficult home life?
For sure. There's many episodes where he witnesses Bob being terrible to Helga, and when they go out on that long walk for Thanksgiving, he gets a huge earful about how stupid and messed up her home life is. So Helga's told Arnold a ton, and Arnold's a sensitive kid. He at the very end of the Thanksgiving special, when he's standing outside and he's watching Helga finally have a good Thanksgiving, you can tell Arnold knows everything about her home life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, I remember now. That's amazing. Do you know what's amazing is that
that's cool. You remember at the end of the Thanksgiving show when I have Arnold say "Happy Thanksgiving, Helga"?
Yeah,
an answer to the Christmas show.
Yeah, that's the thing about Hey Arnold. It's like there's just so much. There's like this. Despite the fact that you can watch all the 5 seasons time and time again, there's always little things that I always miss, and it's just whether they be there was I'm trying to think because that was the thing that just flew over my head. I didn't know that Helga had told Arnold all these things, and they just some of them just really passed me by. I've got to be
it was cool. I remember when we did that. Every time we would do that, we felt like we were kind of upping the stakes too, because the more that Helga confesses to Arnold, the more it's clear that they're kind of soulmates. They're these sort of paired opposites that are really going to complete each other if only they could get it worked out. And the longer we would do scenes like that, the more I thought, wow, Arnold would be kind of he'd sort of dance if he doesn't know where it's at. If Arnold doesn't realize how much Helga loves him, he's kind of a dope. But that's what's kind of funny about it too. It's played for laughs. So my philosophy is that the boys don't know what's going on, and the girls are way ahead of them on that stuff. And so it's kind of fun. The boys kind of dopily, keep kind of muddling along. And even somebody as perceptive and wise as Arnold, that's his blind spot. That Helga is insanely in love with him. Until she finally tells him, and so on.
Okay, actually, these next three questions actually relate to episodes on the show, so I'll just go through them. In the episode April Fool's Day, Arnold looks. Sorry, let me start that again. In the episode April Fool's Day, Arnold looks out of character during the tango scene with Helga. Was he flirting with Helga, or do we, as fans, just think he was flirting?
Yeah, he is. Because if you look at it, April Fool's Day, like I said, that was one of the ones that we made at the very end before the things kind of unraveled. And we were given, I told Nickelodeon, hey, I'm going to have to lay everybody off if we don't start the Jungle movie. There's nothing left for us to do here. What are we going to do? And they said, okay, we'll give you 3 more half hours to make. And I said, great. And the writers and I sat down and came up with April Fool's Day. And we had a couple other pitches. We had like an urban adventure and something else. And they said, no, we'll do that April Fool's Day one. That can be a half-hour special. But we want you to also make a prequel that's 2 half hours. In other words, a whole hour-long prequel that sets up the Jungle movie, because that was sort of practical for them. That's what we were working on. And I went, oh, God, no, what, a prequel? I didn't like that idea at all. And also, I was kind of disappointed that our other episode ideas didn't make it. But, eventually we got into it. I mean, the journals, that we poured everything into that. But April Fool's Day is meant to be, it's really after Arnold Saves the Neighborhood, the Hey Arnold the movie. And because it comes in our timeline of us making the show. It was a year later that we wrote April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
And so we were proceeding from the point of view that Arnold's already heard everything. He's been through that adventure with Helga, and he knows exactly where she's at. But like they say at the end of the Hey Arnold the movie, okay, let's just sort of agree that never happened. And so they're carrying on, and she's probably even cranked up the abuse. You know what I mean? she's trying to kind of put on this show, even for him, that she doesn't love him and hates him. And so when he takes her out on the dance floor, it's kind of like the mask is removed between them for a moment as they're dancing, like they're a couple of people who were in love. It's what's fun about it to me. And in the timeline, Arnold won't tell her that he loves her until later. But that's what's going on in that scene. They're definitely. Imagine how Arnold feels. He knows that Helga's insanely in love with him, even though she's putting him through all this crap.
Yeah. Okay, next question. After the episode Weird Cousin, how did Arnold and Helga explain their unusual behavior towards each other?
You mean to the other kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what's funny, too. Like, whenever you do these public displays of obsession that they kind of somehow pull back from the brink, the other kids would be like, man, kind of Helga and Arnold, they sure do a bunch of weird stuff. And that, we cross that line all the time. We have them do unusual behavior, and then somehow everybody. Sometimes it's a joke. Sometimes we end an episode where it's ridiculous. You've seen everything, and yet somehow we all kind of agree to pretend that didn't happen. My favorite example of that, even better than Weird Cousin, is the one called Helga Blabs It All, where she leaves she's high at the dentist, and she leaves a phone message for him, and then she's got to break into the boarding house and get the tape. You remember at the end of that one, she falls down she's like in the wall behind her.
Falls in the wall and falls in front of the kids.
And she's swinging on a rope trying to get to a window, and she hits the wall, hits the fold-out couch, which then plops her down and, just sitting there in the middle of a circle of all the boys with the tape in her mouth, and she's covered with dust, so she kind of looks like a ghost. And she just gets up. And it's great. If you listen to it, it's scored hilariously by Jim.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Like you're in a horror film. And she steps out of the room backwards, and there's a great shot of her stepping backwards over someone's Robert's feet or something, and like she can't, it's a magical moment where she steps backwards over these boys and backs out of the room and leaves. And there's a beat, and the music kind of goes like thump, and then in the silence, then Arnold goes, "So about that go-kart," and they go right back to having their meeting about building a go-kart. And the point being, that was just too much.
I want to watch that episode again.
The boys don't know how to even process that information, so they're going to pretend it never happened, which is sort of, I know there's a lot of, it's not really realistic, but who cares, right?
Yeah.
We're making a cartoon, we're not actually.
It's cartoon world, yeah. It's cartoon logic, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what often goes on with the Arnold and Helga. They're gonna have constant amnesia about the changes that have happened in the 5 years of the shows that you watch.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. In the episode "What's Opera Arnold?" What made you choose the opera Carmen as the main part of the episode? And are you a fan of the opera as well?
Yeah, I love opera, even though I'm pretty dense about it. I haven't been to a lot of operas, but it's more like this. It's really a salute to Chuck Jones and What's Opera Doc than anything else. It was my salute to Chuck because I feel like I really owe the Warner cartoons a huge debt, because that was what I had to watch when I was growing up, and they taught me so much of what I know about comedy and about music, weirdly. All of them. Friz Freleng was another director who loved, Warner director who loved music and did a lot of musical-driven episodes. But, Chuck Jones did Rabbit of Seville and What's Opera Doc. And those two cartoons are so fantastic. I mean, you're listening to, I think Rabbit of Seville, I think you're listening to The Marriage of Figaro, mostly. And What's Opera Doc, you're listening to the Ring songs, the Ring of the Nibelung. But I thought, well, that would be awesome to just do something like that. And I love the idea of putting all the Arnold likes Ruth, but Helga hates Ruth and wants Arnold, as if they go to the opera, and as soon as it starts, they fall asleep. And then they dream their versions where they're the stars of the opera. And Carmen's a great opera. It's got wonderful, really catchy songs. I think the Curly's song, the Torero song, is a great song. Everybody, as soon as you hear those melodies, you'll never forget them. And so I in the same way that the Rabbit of Seville and What's Opera Doc, taught us children these great opera melodies, that then, it's cool, because then later when you finally get a chance to hear the real thing, you got there because somebody opened the door to this and showed it to you as a kid and made it really funny and entertaining, So that was what I was trying to do. And they're great songs. I think Curly's Toreador song is great, and I love it. This is what I love about making TV, is that that there's going to be thousands of kids who, when they finally hear the Torero song for real from Carmen, they'll be going, "I'm so fine," they'll be singing Curly's lines, and so that's it's sort of like our little joke on culture.
I was going to say, because it's cartoons that it was the Cartoon Family guy that kicked off Rickrolling pretty much, because Brian in the cartoon sings "Never Gonna Give You Up" by Rick Astley, and then all of a sudden everyone said, "Wait a minute, I've heard that somewhere before," and then all of a sudden they all started listening to his music again. It's like, the cartoons have that power.
Yeah, it's true.
Don't they?
I think that's true. It does brings a new audience to stuff that maybe wasn't being heard.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is I'm sorry, I'm just looking down the list. Okay. For each episode which Sorry, let me start that again. For each episode, it's a general rule: 1 page equals 1 minute, because it's animation and relies heavily on the visual descriptions, and the script. A minute on TV could mean sometimes 2 pages of a word. It's a very technical question. Basically, was
so
the rule of the script?
So a minute on TV could mean 2 pages of words. That's actually correct for us, because we didn't do 1 page a minute. We did more like 2 pages a minute. The 11-minute Arnold cartoon would have a script that I remember shooting for about 21 pages, and I like to write a sort of a screenplay that's got that the narrative in the format is pretty effective. That we describe what's supposed to happen, and then of course the storyboard guys, they want to invent as well. So sometimes he would write stuff, and the storyboard guys would take it in another direction, or they would add layers of stuff visually that wasn't in the script. But I really tried to. I would try to make sure that the script had a narrative that made sense, and artists could read the script and not just listen to the dialogue, but read what is supposed to be happening. And sometimes the artists would rebel and they would not really care about the script, but
yeah.
But
so on average,
it was
how
the formula of about 2 pages a minute.
Oh, okay. So on average, for a typical Hey Arnold episode, how big would the script be?
It would be, for an 11-minute, it'd be about 20, 21, 22 pages, and for a half hour, that would take it up to more like 48.
Okay
pages.
then. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I don't know why. It's just a very technical question. I guess all the animation nerds were all pretty much
we have
asking.
a TV writer out there.
Absolutely. Okay. Next question. Who is the mysterious friend of Gerald's known as Fuzzy Slippers?
Oh yeah, Fuzzy Slippers. I love him. Fuzzy Slippers was supposed to be an urban character, kind of like Monkey Man. Just somebody that you hear about but you don't really see. And Fuzzy Slippers was the guy who had he knew the word that was out on everything. So if Gerald heard it from Fuzzy Slippers, that's what's really going on. And we thought about doing a Fuzzy Slippers episode, just never got around to it. It would have been fun. I mean, I would think if he would be just as colorful as like Monkey Man.
Yeah.
Monkey Man was he was in the pilot, but we ended up cutting him.
Yeah.
He was just supposed to be. Monkey Man was supposed to be like a character like that who lived on Arnold Street. I was originally going to have it that he was a homeless guy that Arnold met, and he learns his story, and they become friends. And Arnold says, "Why don't you?" And so Monkey Man ends up living in some boxes down in the alley under Arnold's fire escape.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you what.
Nickelodeon wasn't really comfortable with us starting off the series with an insane person who lives in boxes outside Arnold's house. We had to get to that a little later. It took us about 4 seasons to finally.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Gotham City has Batman. Hillwood has Monkey Man. That's that's the greatest thing. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, which is. You mentioned in an interview that the girls in Arnold's class were based on girls he had a crush on when he was younger. Is Helga also based on a girl you had a crush on, and did she also have a difficult home life like Helga?
No. I mean, when I say that the kids in Hey Arnold are kind of based on people I knew in childhood, it's generally much more of a kind of it's more vague than that. There's no specific Helga. It'd be wonderful. I wish that Helga was a real person that I knew, because it would be so cool. But it's really more like just things that happened to me when I was a kid that I would kind of work into the stories. And so and some people are more. Some of the characters on Hey Arnold are really more based on somebody that I knew than Helga. She's really, I don't know, man. Like, look, I'll put it this way: when I was that age, the girl that had a crush on you would be mean to you, and that would be the only way that she could show that she had a crush on you. But there was no girl that I knew that was what Helga's based on. She's just so much more intense than that. Like, all of it. It was like I made her kind of more ugly in a way. When I remember the original designs of Hey Arnold, she was a pretty unattractive girl. And as the series went on, all the characters got kind of fleshed out, and we drew them for years, and they all got a little bit, their arms got thicker and their faces got a little bit more detailed in a way that you could turn them, Yeah. Helga's look sort of evolved. And it's really funny how that goes, because I liked her more and more. As I kept writing for her, I just thought she was so awesome that I finally, it's like you realize that you've made somebody that's pretty kind of brutal and unlovable, and you've made her into somebody that you really love. So yeah, there's nobody that Helga's like something that grew from nothing, you know. And there were these feelings I had about childhood and about love and unrequited love and the way I felt about people and that they felt about me that are what she's based on. But yeah, there's no person.
Okay.
Unfortunately, like it's kind of cool that I still am friends with Franny, Francesca Smith, who played Helga, because that's kind of cool. I had lunch with her about a month ago, and I was listening to her talk, and I was thinking, this is as close to hearing Helga talk as I can get. But Franny and I both know that she's not Helga either, because nobody is. She's a made-up character. It's really funny. We all wish that Helga was around so we could have her for a friend.
Actually, there's something hilarious.
Friend,
there's a
Chris,
group
who was my editor. Chris Duffy was editor of Nick Magazine, and he would edit my Arnold comics. So we had a long relationship, and we're friends and Facebook friends. And I remember I put up a picture of Helga on Facebook this Valentine's Day. It was a picture of her standing out by the ice cream truck, and she's got ice cream all over her face, and it says that she wishes everybody a great Valentine's Day. And Chris Duffy wrote on the comments, he said, Craig, she's your best character ever. You should make a novel of Helga as the 40-year-old. And I thought, man, what an awesome idea. Because, she is. She's a great character, and she's sort of alive to me. She's out there somewhere in my mind, so I should.
Yeah, actually, she might not be too far away because everyone makes fun of my monobrow that I've got, and sometimes sometimes I do get a bit frustrated, and they start saying, you got parallels between Helga, and then one day some girl put a pink bow on my head, and I just looked in the mirror, and it's like, oh God, it's like it's happening. Anyway, let's move on to the next question.
I think I have a little Helga in me too.
Yeah,
and Olga,
I think we all
too.
do.
My wife says that I have a little Olga in me.
Really? That's interesting. Okay, then. Next question, and this might actually have a sad answer, actually, I don't know, but what happened to Lila's mom?
Oh, Lila's mom.
Yeah.
I think she must have died. I think that maybe Lila and her dad are carrying on without their mom. I don't think they're divorced. I think she's dead. I never really got into that. There's a lot of that stuff, when I think of what the fans are asking me for questions about what would happen next and such. I don't know, but and you only think up what you have to think up, really, as you are making your stories. And we just figured that Lila and her dad moved to town, and they're just sort of carrying on without her mom.
Yeah. Actually, when I was working on, when we were doing the Hey Arnold comic project, and we were working on the Hey Arnold Season 6, and one of the first things that came up when we were first meeting about it was basically we need to address Lila's mom because everyone keeps asking about her. And one of the ideas for the episodes we came up with was a episode called Mr. Sawyer's Girlfriend, where basically Lila's dad starts dating again, and Lila feels really uncomfortable about it, and basically then they have this conversation saying, look, I know your mother passed away, but we need to move on and stuff like that.
Wow, so that's what you guys came up with too.
Yeah, really. Did you guys come up with that?
I don't think we really answered it, but that's what we figured.
Oh, okay then. Well, anyway, I think that's all. I guess is how fans interpret it. I guess, and we do interpret these things. It's like there's some people who go in one direction, some people go in another. It all ends up in fan fiction or in fan art or whatever. It's lovely to watch. Actually, it is really good. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Some fans are confused about exactly when Arnold's parents disappeared. Basically, the timeline of when they came back and then to Hillwood and then when they went off again. How old was Arnold when his parents left?
Well, it's not really specific. It's after his first birthday, somewhere probably between ages 1 and 2. And he's pretty precocious. When his parents are gone, you can tell he's old enough to say a few words. And so I'm thinking he's somewhere between 1 and 2, and then let me think, in Parents' Day we pick up the narrative where he's crawling down the hall in the middle of the night and Grandpa takes him back up to his room and he's asking questions and saying sentences. So he's probably about 2 then, I suppose. That's about as far as I figured it out.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. If Rhonda is so rich, why does she go to a public school?
I know it's kind of weird for those parents to be sending Rhonda to PS 118. It's funny, we kind of Rhonda didn't really get her character developed until we got in a season or two, I think, and so she sort of got richer as the series went on, and I think it was just because it was funny to us to have a character who had such snobby parents, so out of touch and so into immaterial things. And so it was a little bit unreal. There she was living in a little urban apartment that wasn't very nice, and they were carrying on like they would live in a big house out in the suburbs. So there's something kind of not really realistic about that. And,
Well, I don't know. It's like, I mean...
You gotta go as far as you can with something like that and to still make it work. Rhonda still has to go to Arnold's school. So
is there a possibility that, basically, Rhonda's parents are so obsessed with being rich and want to save so much money, it's like, oh, that public school will do. Let's just send her down there.
Yeah.
No, that was an interesting thought. Okay, next question. What are Brainy, Nadine, Sid, and Sheena's last names?
Brainy, Nadine, Sid, and Sheena.
Yeah.
We never came up with last names for any of those people.
Really? So basically, they're just known by their first names.
Yeah, it is unknown.
Yeah. They're like Brazilian football. Basically, it's Raphael, and that's what they are. Okay, next question. Could you see yourself making a comic version of a continuation of the lives of Hey Arnold characters? You mentioned the book before about Helga when she's 40. I mean, have you ever considered what happens to the rest of them?
Well, sure. I'm open to all that stuff. It would be really fun to do kind of graphic novel interpretations of stories, and I'm open to that.
No, that's really interesting. Well, what besides Helga? I mean, is there any other? Do you ever wonder what happens to any of the other characters? Years ahead.
It's cool to think of a sort of like the characters as young adults. I saw a really funny just recently, I was just linked to it by one of the Arnold fans who is very active in working on the kind of continuation of the Arnold fandom, and she sends me links to. I think they're showing up they're either on people's Tumblr pages or on DeviantArt. And this person, I'm trying to think what her name was. Anyway,
is it Mia?
She did very funny drawings of all the Arnold kids as young adults. They're all like in their mid-20s. Which is cool, and this is exactly what's going on. The kids who were children watching Hey Arnold on Nickelodeon in the 90s are now mostly out of college. I would say they kind of range from about 20 to 30 in age, and a lot of them are out of college and out getting their first jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
And the artists, these were really terrific drawings of these kids, and they were sort of like I would assume that this woman, probably studied fashion design because the fashion stuff was really spot on and very, very detailed and cool. And the faces, I loved the drawings. They all look like real humans.
Yeah.
Which is that thing we were just talking about where, Helga seems so real. I've invested so much kind of personality and detail into her. And Franny, in her voice work as the actor who brought her to life, Franny brought so much reality to the character that you sort of want to see what Helga would look like if she was 25, which would be kind of like how old she would be if, I don't know what the math is exactly, but, if she was 9 in 96.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, when I see this stuff, I'm like, God, it's there they are, and it makes you want to do episodes where they're all in their 20s and they're just having their experiences now and they're talking about what it was like to be kids growing up on that neighborhood in the 90s.
Okay, the next one is not necessarily a question, it's more of a request from people. Everyone knows that you do with the voice of Brainy on the show. They ask, can you do his heavy breathing for them?
Oh, sure. Hold on just a sec. Okay, here goes.
I'm scared.
There you go.
Awesome.
You notice he never says much.
No, he doesn't. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. And how do you think Arnold evolved as a character throughout the series? So basically from Downtown as Fruits to the Journal. How do you think he evolved?
At the end of the series. That's a good question. He evolved probably less than many of the other characters because there was something basic about Arnold that I just believed from the start. He was really meant to be who he was from the start. The main changes were at the very beginning, he was a daydreamer who was sort of in trouble for his daydreaming. You know, he was such a daydreamer that teachers would have to say, Arnold, you know, stop looking out the window and pay attention. And the kids, you know, the pilot, the very first thing that happens is he's completely not there. He's sort of floating, tumbling through space above the earth when Helga goes, Arnold, you're up, you know, and then he's standing there on the ball field and they're supposed to, you know, he's up at bat. And that, here's the deal, when we got into series, that was kind of how it started. When I first did it, Arnold was in the little claymation shorts. He was very small. He was about 5. And a, you know, chronic daydreamer who would daydream his way through church and school. And I just realized when we got into the narrative, long-form Hey Arnold series, that wasn't going to work. You know, he needed to snap out of it and be more in control of the series. And so we did a few. And there's a few in the earliest shows that we even we tried to open them with a daydreaming sequence. I think a couple of them. There was one. Which one was that? Kelly James did the board, and it was really terrific. I think it was Operation Ruthless. Remember that in the first season when they all go to the cheese festival?
Yeah, I remember that one.
That one started with Arnold and Gerald walking down the street, and Gerald snaps him out of a daydream, and they're just, remember, it opens, they're on the street, and they're talking, and they walk by, and there's the cheese festival, and Arnold says, you know, he wants to see Ruth McDougal or whatever. But the beginning of that, Kelly James did a terrific daydream sequence where Arnold was in a pinball machine, and he was about, you know, 2 inches tall, and he was kind of being chased by pinballs that were, and he gets caught on one, and he you know, clangs into something, and it lights up, and you can see that the pinball machine is a kind of a love pinball machine where, you know, Ruth, there's little pictures of Ruth that are like things that you hit, and little Helgas, and it was great. It was so terrific, and I loved it, but we realized even then, and we were only a few episodes in, and we were like, man, these daydreams are taking up a minute of storytelling time that we can't take up. We need all 11 minutes to get. 11 minutes isn't very long.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have these little 3-act stories that had a bunch of stuff happen.
Yeah.
And so the daydreams basically went away. And Arnold became, you know, it was cool anyway because, you know, I was trying to make Arnold an active character who would be at the center of the activity, and a kid who's a chronic daydreamer is not really good for that. And so that evolution happened right away. And then he sort of settled into who he was. Arnold was this sort of little Buddha who was wiser than everyone. And he kind of, do you remember in the Christmas show, there's a wonderful scene where it's late. It's probably about 2/3 of the way through the story, or even further, where they've gone through their whole day of trying to buy the presents, and they've got everything but the Nancy Spumoni snow boots, and Arnold runs into they go back to the Mr. Bailey, and he says no snow boots, no deal, and he goes home, and then there's a scene where he's lying in bed and he's looking out the skylight, and it's a great shot. You know, Arnold's lying in bed, and the camera is directly above him, and it just sort of slowly trucks out, and beautiful music plays, and you're sort of thinking about what Arnold's thinking. This is where Arnold kind of went with that daydreamy stuff. He became more like this sort of magical kid who's he's wishing all this stuff, and we're kind of getting an idea. We, the audience, are going along with him as he's trying to solve his problems. And I just thought, that's so cool. Arnold's like this kid who he's very wise, and he's trying to make things happen, and it's like that. The series is about his wishes for things to come true, and instead of him just sort of daydreaming like he did at the beginning and not knowing what's going on. So it's more like he became kind of you know, he was like the wisest of all those kids, and kind of trying to think of everything. And you know, and then, you know, the kids, as the series went along, the kids' relationship with him was what evolved. You know, they finally real often they'll go to him for advice, or or they'll he'll have something helpful to say to the other kids to help them with their problem, and you realize Arnold's involved and he's thinking about them. But by the end of the series, there was that one where they even kind of fired him from the job of being the advice guy. And then, of course, everything goes really, really wrong, and they all come running back and ask him to they want to hire him back. So that's kind of where it went. Arnold became a sort of a know-it-all that they really loved and trusted, but once in a while they'd be kind of fed up with him. And Helga, of course, her role was to make fun of that from the very start. She's always like, oh, what's your Nobel Prize winning idea, football head? She would be, she would be pointing out to the audience that she knew, and everyone knew, that Arnold was a big know-it-all.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a long answer.
That is a long answer. Thank you very much for it as well. Okay, this is the last question related to the Hey Arnold TV series, and it goes like this. Were there ever any plans to have a 6th season of Hey Arnold before the show was cancelled?
Well, we did. I don't even know where they are now, but I remember I kept a list of episode ideas that were just that sort of the hopper where all the ideas went, and there were plenty of ideas that we had still that we wanted to make, and so yeah, we would have just gone right on. That's kind of the way I am. I would have happily made a 6th and beyond, but
really?
it's more like
if
they had 100 episodes and they felt like that was enough for now, and they could just run them in reruns, and they wanted to move on to the movie and take the franchise to the next level. And since the movie that was released, the Hey Arnold the movie, the one about saving the neighborhood, didn't make enough money for them, then that was the answer to their question. That the franchise isn't big enough, it doesn't have those kind of legs, we're done.
Yeah.
And so that's how.
But I have to ask.
Business.
Storyline-wise, I mean, it's like if something dramatic happened in the Jungle movie after the 5th season, I mean, what would have happened in the 6th season? I mean, would it have been dramatically different from the other 5 seasons if it was made?
I suppose. It's like I really don't know. I would have had to cross that bridge when I came to it, and so one of the things I realized pretty clear to me when I look back on the show with 10 years distance is, man, we were just completely flying along by the seat of our pants. We were doing the best we could. We didn't know, and it's not the nature of this work. I just had a conversation with an old friend of mine about this, where we were talking about how cool it would be to make TV where you sit down and say, we're going to make 65 half hours, and it'll end at 65 with this event, and here we are at the start, and we're going to here are all the characters, and we're going to give them all these kind of roles, and we'll arc each year. The series will have an arc, and then at the end of the whole thing, there's an even bigger arc that it was all leading to. But nobody has that kind of luxury. We don't get to do that. We just basically sell them a series based on a pilot and a handful of premises about what you think would happen. And as soon as you get into it, you find out, oh, well, that's not going to be how it's going to go. You find out something else, or you realize that an idea that you had was stupid and didn't really work, and so on. And you kind of it's much more improvisational than that, and that's why you kind of paint yourself into a corner. I mean, the whole thing with Arnold's parents was an example of me discovering as I went along that I had this a bunch of unresolved stuff that I was going to have to deal with, and then once I did it, it seemed very, very sad to me, and kind of great on one level. There were things about it that were really cool and memorable, and the fans really responded to. But I thought, wow, now what? So you kind of get into this stuff, and you just don't know. And it's kind of what I like about it too. I mean, I'm not really complaining. It's sometimes I think you paint yourself in a corner, and it would have been better if you'd had a chance to think it out. But also, that's what I like about it. You know what I mean? It's like there's a bunch of undiscovered countries that I haven't been to, and I haven't even gone there yet. It's all these years. I don't know. It'd be fun to find out.
Yeah. Now we're going to move on to the two movies. One was made and one wasn't. And there's 3 questions in regards to Hey Arnold, the movie, which people want to know about. And these were the most most asked questions, which I wanted to put to you. The first one is, did Brainy know about Arnold and Helga's kiss at the top of the FTI tower?
Well, I would say yes, because Brainy knows everything. Brainy's a very magical character. You know, Brainy kind of is magical in the sense that when Helga has all of her most intense emotional kind of monologues, you know how he kind of magically is just standing there behind her. I think she kind of must conjure him, you know, with the intensity of her feelings, and so he sort of just arrives. So that makes him kind of magical and kind of, to me, kind of all-knowing, and yet, you know, like whatever. He's also completely random. So sure, yeah, he must have known.
He must have known. Okay, then. Next question. What was the inspiration behind the Shek character, the villain of the movie?
Yeah, Paul Sorvino is so great. You know, I loved him as an actor. And we thought, I don't know if we thought of Paul all along, but we just thought like a guy who's both charming and really dangerous and menacing, like a guy who would be a very, you know, a lot of politicians, they end up there, they get there because they're sort of telegenic.
Oh, don't get me started on politicians.
Yeah, and they just sort of become, they look great on TV, and they're very charming, and they say stuff and they make you believe it even if it's not true. And so that's what we thought. He was sort of an executive and a very charming bad guy who, even when you meet him, like, I mean, Gerald, when they meet him, Gerald thinks, "Wow, he sure looks good in a suit, you know, man, that guy's great." And at the same time, they know he's the villain they're going to have to take out. So that's kind of all we had for him. Just like we wanted a villain who was charming.
Yeah. Okay, last question for Hey Arnold the movie and also for Shek as well. Do you think Shek would have made an appearance in the Hey Arnold TV show somewhere down the line?
That would be funny. It turns out, yeah, he was very involved in Arnold's neighborhood. His ancestors were turned back, you know. Were turned back in a battle there. so it's sort of been, you know, it's a sore spot for him, and he was really involved. So although he went off to prison, who knows how long he stayed in jail?
Yeah.
I don't know what would have happened with him.
I don't know. I'd imagine all the antics.
That's really funny that I said that. I almost said Shrek.
Shrek. Oh yeah, you almost said Shrek.
We had a test screening of Hey Arnold the movie at Paramount a couple months before it was released, and the screening went really well, and that made Paramount. The kids really liked it, and the parents who brought it, and Paramount was really excited about how it went. And but a kid came out. I was standing in the doorway as the kids were coming out. I was like, "How'd you like it?" And this little kid said, "I liked it. I like Shrek." And down the stairs he went. I was like, no, it's Shek. And then I thought, oh, you idiot. You've named this character something that sounds too much like another character that's more famous. Yeah. That's not going to be good.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the movie that never was made, and that was the Jungle movie. But hey, you never know. We might be sitting here one day talking about you know, when the Jungle movie was made and everything like that. So
Exactly.
Who knows? Okay. First question. The original script for the Jungle movie, how many people wrote it?
Oh, the first draft was written by myself and Steve Vixton. And then after that, I did several more drafts just by myself. And then the last thing we did was John Greenberg, John wrote several episodes, a bunch of episodes of Hey Arnold. He took a pass at it, and then I took a pass at it. Like we were sort of like, well, I remember it was kind of stalling with Paramount, and they wanted to add another voice to it. So John Greenberg and I did the draft as far as it got.
Yeah. Okay then. So that was like 2 or 3 people that were working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
ultimately, right.
Yeah, quite a few people. Okay then. Next question. What year does the Jungle movie take place? And is it in the spring or in the summertime that they actually go to San Lorenzo?
Let's see. I think it would be summer because it was like in the original concept, it was at the end of their 4th grade year, and they all went in the summer. It was like Arnold won an essay contest about San Lorenzo, and they as the winners, the class gets to go to San Lorenzo. But you know what? I have to say at this point, I don't really think if Nickelodeon said to me tomorrow, "Hey, you get to make the Jungle movie, let's go," I think I would sort of start from scratch. So in a way, when we're talking about this, it's sort of important to keep it in a kind of a historical context. When I was writing those drafts, it was more than 10 years ago, and and when we did that development where Raimi Muskies did a bunch of storyboards, I just feel like all that stuff is pretty moot at this point because I don't even know where the original development. I have some of the original development materials, but Nickelodeon kept the rest. It all just went into boxes.
Yeah, I'll totally relate you with you there, Craig.
I bet you $100 they couldn't find it. And so my feeling is this: if we were going to do the Jungle movie, I would start over. I really would. I would. There's a few things about it that I would keep, but it's completely wide open to me what the answers to that question is.
Yeah.
You know, that was then and this is now.
Yeah, I'll totally relate to you, Craig, because I've got some fan fictions. I used to write fan fictions about Star Fox, you know, the Nintendo franchise, and a lot of Star Fox fans still say, "Oh, well, you know, you only half finished them." You know, it's like, are you going to continue doing them? And it's like, you know, but these fan fictions were written years ago. It's like we're talking like 2003, 2004, and it's like, you know, if I started writing them again, I'd have to start from scratch because I have no idea where. I was a kid at the end of the day. You know, I had no structure. You know, I'd have to start from scratch and figure out where on earth I'd gone with the stories.
The way I feel about Hey Arnold the series now compared to then, things have changed so much. I feel like now I have a much better idea of what the whole 100 half hours really means because I wasn't in the middle of doing it, and also at the end of it, it was such a struggle. So much of it was a struggle about trying to keep my crew there.
Yeah.
And so which of course made it a kind of a tense negotiation and all this difficulty. None of that stuff exists anymore. Everyone's gone on their merry way. They're scattered all over the place doing a bunch of different things. I have no idea who of that original crew would be able to join me if I was to do future stuff. I don't know what would happen with the actors, etc. So it's much more like, oh, okay, then that's a whole new assignment.
Yeah, I was going to say
the only things that exist are the 100 half hours that exist, and the whole history of Arnold and Helga and his parents, and you know what's been set up in the journal. I'd have to respect that because that exists.
Yeah,
and probably to a lot of kids, the journal's probably kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
you know, it's sort of like a big puzzle that has to be solved. But you know, that's kind of cool though. I mean, it would be fun to get the job now because it's been so long. I feel like it's kind of it's wide open.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Would you agree to write the Jungle movie story, that basically is the story, if Nickelodeon asked you to write a book or a graphic novel rather than a movie?
Sure. I mean, the way I feel is that any kind of further Arnold stuff that Nickelodeon was willing to do, I would do. Because any version would be fun to go there, and any kind of closure for I'm aware that the fans are sort of dying for closure. So any kind of closure that I could do, I would do.
Absolutely. Okay, then, next question. Since Hey Arnold is back on TV again and getting good ratings on the 90s are all that, and also it's been back here on the UK as well, we've been getting it every 9 o'clock until it was replaced by Ren and Stimpy, because they usually recycle the Nicktoons here, so basically we still get some of the 90s stuff still. But anyway, go back to the question.
Yeah, that was really the 90s are all that little movement was really cool. It was fun to see the way Nickelodeon treated it. You know, I liked the way that they were doing, the way it was sort of trending, and people were there was a lot of ways that fans could respond after something aired, and just it's really cool to see everything. The way things are playing in 2012 is Nickelodeon's very media savvy about it too, and so they must have. I'm sure that everybody at Nickelodeon was aware of how Hey Arnold was trending and how much people were glad.
Anyway, the fans are going to kill me if I don't ask the original question, which is that, with that being said, with Hey Arnold back on TV again and getting good ratings, will there be a chance of the Jungle movie being animated?
Well, I'll tell you this. This is a bit of a scoop because it just happened. I had a meeting at Nickelodeon this week. And
oh my goodness!
I met with my old friend Margie Cohn, who is an exec and one of the people at the top of the organization, and we talked about that. And the other news at Nickelodeon is a guy named Russell Hicks is now the animation exec out here, and I know Russell too. He's an old friend. I knew him. Both Margie and Russell go way back. Margie's been with Nickelodeon since I don't know forever.
Very interesting.
20 years she's been there, and they're both great, and they're friends, and we had a very friendly, I met with both of them in the last couple of weeks, and we had a really friendly meeting, and they both said that they would ask. They would ask up in the organization, and they said it's complicated, of course.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big franchise that sort of goes across a bunch of platforms, and they all have to talk to each other about what that even means. But my point is this: I met with them, and I just said, everybody was talking about how they would like to kind of get back to their roots at Nickelodeon and their roots about what their shows are and what they have to say. And they had really, really nice things to say about Hey Arnold. And I thought, well, this is cool. It's so nice to have a dialogue with them. And all I did was tell them my willingness to do whatever with the franchise, and they were both really nice about it. So, having said that, now I don't want people to
get too excited.
That means we're making the Jungle movie. I really have to emphasize that I've had many meetings over my whole career where I came out of the meeting going, far out, man, it's on. And people were just like, great, we'll start tomorrow. And nothing came of it.
Yeah.
I really want to make that point. There are many, many times that you have a really fantastic meeting and you just go skipping down the street thinking that everything's on.
I tell you, I've had job interviews where that's happened.
Having said that, it was really, really nice to hear such nice things about Hey Arnold and me from these two old friends at Nickelodeon. So, it's a really cool time where I feel like there's a lot of possibility, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is, if the Jungle movie was made today, would you have to replace all the voice actors?
Well, it depends. It depends on what the Jungle movie ends up being. If it happened where they were older, then I could use the original voice actors. If it happened when they were in the summer of 4th grade, I'd probably have to recast everybody, even Franny, which would really
suck that'd be disappointing.
Franny doesn't sound like she's even remotely she could play a teenager, I'll put it that way, but I don't think she could play a 9-year-old anymore.
But I was going to say, in the magical world of auto-tuning and all sorts of, Adobe Audition, is there no way you could probably, tweak with the actors' voices to make them basically younger, computer-generated ones?
I know that the digital effects get better and better, but still, it's especially with the boys. Once they've turned into teenagers, it's sort of like they have a new voice.
Yeah.
And that even auto tuning can't really solve. And trust me, I've been looking into that. We're going through that with Dinosaur Train. Both Buddy and Don, the two boys on the show, both those boys, their voices did the big turn. And it's the very same thing. We're asking all those same questions and trying to figure out what to do about it. But.
Who knows, mate?
Anyway, I wouldn't say no to anything.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. Who knows what would happen?
Okay. Next question, and this actually has something to do with, I would say, maybe story-wise, maybe. But can you tell us anything about the Korra Zone? Basically, this magical element that was seen in the journal. Is it magical?
I'm sorry. Is it what?
Is it magical?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's something. In the world of the Jungle movie, by the time you get up to the mountains in the sort of this Republic of San Lorenzo is a fictional place, kind of where Costa Rica is.
Yeah.
And where if you get up into these mountains, it's that kind of magical world where you've really left the grid, and even that's kind of what's fun about when I was sitting there making Parents' Day and I was trying to figure out where Arnold's parents disappeared, I wanted it. Originally, I was very vague when I sold the show. I was like, they're in Africa, or something. They're shooting documentaries or wildlife films, and they're out. That's what they do. But as I got deeper into it, and where I really had to define it, starting with Parents' Day and then continuing with the Jungle movie and the journal. I decided that it was Central America. It was somehow this kind of magical place where you get deep enough into the jungle no one can find you anymore. The satellites don't see you, and your cell phones won't work, and you're in this magical place that's off of maps and no one knows. And that's why the green-eyed people can live in a place like that. And they even have a hidden city that's, probably in the crater of a dormant volcano, like in a cloud forest at 8,000 feet, and just nobody's gone there. And then it's so magical that people who were exploring in there would just get lost, and they wouldn't find them. And so, the Corazon is in a place that's that magical, and it's a really sacred thing to them. It must be magical.
Yeah. I was going to say,
I don't know that much more than that. I mean, I would get into it. All those are things that you plant in a story, and you just wait to see if it's going to grow.
I was going to say, you make San Lorenzo sound like a wonderful, magical place. In my telling of the story, I've turned it into a military dictatorship, so it's...
Well, remember did you read any Kurt Vonnegut? The name San Lorenzo comes from Kurt Vonnegut's novel Cat's
Cradle. Oh my goodness!
Caribbean island.
That's such a coincidence. I wasn't even. I read that thinking, oh, okay, then this is interesting, but I never realized. Oh wow. Well, that's going in the wiki.
No, I just like that name, and I'm a huge fan of Kurt Vonnegut. Vonnegut was a really important writer to me when I was growing up.
I had no idea about that. That's so amazing. It's like that's just a huge coincidence. I was just reading Cat's Cradle, not thinking about it.
When you get to the Hey Arnold was the best thing in my whole career, being given a world that you make up, and it just gets weirder and weirder, and you get deeper and deeper, and you're doing stuff like that, going, wow, this will be great. I'll make up a Central American republic that's kind of magical, and you just borrow from everything you ever loved. I'm borrowing from Vonnegut, and I'm borrowing from so much stuff. Did you ever see that film called The Emerald Forest?
Oh, not seen that one yet. No, I'm going through all my classic movies at the moment.
In the Amazon rainforest, but the people that are the indigenous tribe that are the center of that story, I'd love that. I love that they go off the grid. There's a lot of sort of like the Emerald Forest is pretty dark. There's a lot of horrible stuff about them being kind of exterminated at the hands of people who are just cutting down the trees and stuff. And that sort of mythology is in a lot of stories. And I tried to make, Hey Arnold is much more of a show for kids than the Emerald Forest is. Hey Arnold is much more about kind of more of a storybook take on a magical people that are hiding in the jungle, that people have never found.
Yeah, there's a huge debate over the green-eyed people at the moment, because it's like, I talk to people, it's like, oh, they're like the Na'vi from Avatar, and it's like, oh, they're like, no, they're like these people, they're like that people, they're like they're all sorts of people.
There's so many stories that go there. There's a lot of stuff about that. Avatar, everybody made fun of how much Avatar borrowed the entire plot of Pocahontas.
Really?
What?
Yeah,
what can I say? We're making up stories, but we're all fans of we've read a million books and seen a million movies, and that stuff just sort of. Since when
in Pocahontas was there, a military, machine and mercenaries and good grief?
I've got it somewhere. I think it's probably on my Facebook page. It was really funny. Somebody had written a synopsis of Pocahontas and then crossed out all the names and put the names from Avatar in there, and it was spot on, man.
Really? Are we talking?
The whole thing was.
Sorry,
right
are we
there.
talking about the? Are we talking about?
I have to say, Avatar is a hugely entertaining film and a blast to watch. And I thought Pocahontas was very much a lesser Disney film.
Yeah.
So,
okay then.
I don't mind that Jim Cameron took it and made a much more fun movie out of that same story.
Okay. I'm just checking all my... Yeah, this is the last related question to the Jungle movie, and then we'll move on. What do you think of the fans trying to save the Jungle movie, and how close do you think they are to persuading Nickelodeon to make it?
That's pretty funny in light of the fact that I just had a great meeting at Nick. To tell you the truth, from my point of view, when I meet with my friends at Nickelodeon, these are people that I've known for a long, long time. Really, Margie I've known for about 20 years. And so I'm really, all I'm trying to do is let them know how willing I am to come and do more stuff for them. And that we talk about the fact that Hey Arnold has a lot of fans and they're very loyal. one of the things that I talk about with them is I say, this is interesting. The fans of Hey Arnold are both kids that are able to see it on Netflix, that are being kind of shown Hey Arnold by older kids or their relatives, or somebody saying to kids the age of the Nickelodeon audience, which is still supposed to be 6 to 11, you know. I say there are kids discovering Hey Arnold for the first time, and they're able to watch the whole series on Netflix and stuff like that, and on their air whenever Nickelodeon chooses to air it. But you also have an interesting thing. You have an adult audience for Hey Arnold too. The people that I was describing earlier, the kids that are, well, the adults that are 20 to 30, and so on. And so they really have they almost have two audiences, or they have a very large audience that goes from adult to kid. And the adults they're very interested in closure, and they're interested in sort of the Patakis and the idea of being able to see them as young adults or kids, and all the stuff all the DeviantArt and the Tumblr stuff they love that. They kind of want to invent them into these new stories and see them in all these different manifestations. So, I would love to persuade Nickelodeon to do all this stuff, and I appreciate that the fans are trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to kind of stay out of the fray. I don't really. This might come up in other questions, but I try not to do much more than just read the stuff that fans write to me, and I do see a lot of the art, because it's a lot easier to look at art than it is to, say, read fan fictions or things like that. It's easy to just take a look at some art that somebody sent me in a link.
Well, that question's going to come up later on.
I really like it. It's wonderful. I'm very flattered. It's the most flattering thing imaginable, because what that says is that these characters really live, and they're really alive in the minds of all these people. And it's super nice. There's nothing nicer than that. So I'm really happy about it. And if Nickelodeon finally brings me back and has me do stuff, it will be partly because of a tremendous amount of support from fans. So in the past, I've not, in the last 10 years when I've done these kind of interviews, sometimes I've been more down on it, and I've said, look, it's not going to happen. Save your strength, and we're not going to make the Jungle movie. I just don't think this is ever going to happen. But I don't feel that way now. I feel like 2012, there's been a tremendous spike of interest in Hey Arnold, and a lot of dialogue about it, and that I think has actually reached Nickelodeon's executives, and they're aware of it in a way that they weren't before. And also, things have changed at Nickelodeon in the last couple of years. They lost their number one spot. They're kind of down in the ratings, and it's made them do a lot of soul searching. Maybe we need to go back to our roots and figure out what it was when we really had it going on. And one of the things that the young people that work at Nickelodeon are saying is, "What about Hey Arnold? That's a really cool show." And there are people that work at Nickelodeon that actually are young adults who grew up on Hey Arnold, and they talk about it like it's their favorite show. So it's a cool trend, and I wouldn't say anything is impossible. I would say that anything is possible, and fans have been clamoring at Nickelodeon for a long time now.
Yeah.
Maybe they will persuade them. So, and maybe I will. I mean, ultimately, I don't mean to say the fans don't count, but ultimately it's between me and Nickelodeon, and I have to persuade them myself. So when I went in and met with them a couple weeks ago and this week, that was my message to them. I said, hey, here I am. You guys know me. We're old friends. You know that I'd be willing to do any of these things. So, please consider it. So they might do it. Who knows?
We got a few more questions to go. Actually, we're on the second page now, so we're almost we're halfway there. We're almost done. So anyway, the Patakis. These are the questions on that. Now, the first question is, what are the chances of the Patakis being produced? You've already said that you've met with Nickelodeon people, and that who knows what happens. So.
Yeah, and the way I put it was, I said that I was open to any kind of iteration of taking Hey Arnold to the next level. I said, kind of like, what is Arnold 2.0? I don't even know what it is, and we've talked about the Jungle movie. We've talked about any kind of real kind of closure for Arnold and Helga, and that story, what happened to his missing parents, and we talked about the Patakis. But when I spoke to them, I didn't get into any specifics at all, because it's really more like what they can handle and kind of what their needs are. If they needed if they needed a more of a teenage or young adult block show, then the Patakis is more that kind of show. If they need something that's for kids 6 to 11, the Patakis is probably not that show.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
much more of a kind of a, it's a teenage show.
Yeah. And, okay, the second question after that is, what happens to the other kids in the neighborhood in that show?
I didn't really get to it. I mean, I figured that they were all still there. One of the things about the Patakis that I wanted to do was really bring Helga to the forefront. So I had Arnold having moved away, and so it would be kind of like everybody minus Arnold, and yet Helga would still have this ongoing sort of tortured relationship with Arnold. Like she was in the original concept of the Patakis, the stories would be framed in a kind of a narrative where she started it out by saying, "Dear Arnold," and she was writing to him and telling him about what happened, and then at the end of the episode she'd sort of finish it, and she'd finish the letter, put it in an envelope, seal it, put a stamp on it, take it down to the mailbox, and she would, instead of mailing it, then she wouldn't mail it. So all these letters were like, it was sort of the series was like an epistolary novel, all written to Arnold, but never mailed. And then I think she would kind of take the letter and like put it in a notebook or something like that, and like have a huge bunch of notebooks. So
Yeah.
it was meant to be kind of like Helga and Arnold had not really resolved their problems, but they were, here's the deal: they're soulmates, and they'll eventually be together. And in a way, as a storyteller, it's more interesting when you don't resolve everything and you leave things unsettled, because it's easier to come up with more and more stories. If they're really happily just like, how I kind of think kids that watch, if you think about the ending of Harry Potter, at the end of Harry Potter, they're standing on the train platform and it's like 20 years later and they're all adults, and there's little Harry and Hermione kids, they had 3 kids, whatever, there's a boy and a girl and a boy. That kind of stuff is really sort of cool as a moment. Like you just sort of see it and you go, oh, look, it all ended up happily. That's nice. But that doesn't make a series. You know what I mean? You can't then do like Harry and Hermione's kids. It would be a little bit, I don't know. It's sort of better to just sort of say, hey, it happens, and not really, just sort of make a bunch of episodes of that. I think it's more fun to have conflict and unresolved stuff and things that need to be finished. Than to just say, oh, here they are, now they're happily married. That's kind of, that's not as dramatic.
Yeah. Okay, next question. If Helga and Lila are supposed to be friends in the show, does that mean, I don't know why, this is kind of an awkwardly worded question. If Helga and Lila can become friends, does that mean Helga can patch up things with Lila? I'm sorry, with Olga, her bigger sister.
With Olga. Right?
Yeah, Olga.
I didn't even know Helga and Lila became friends.
Really?
Maybe they do.
Oh.
I imagine there might be something that's happening in the fanfics. That's cool.
Yeah.
I imagine that as they all became teenagers, it would just give you a chance to see all those relationships mature, and some people would have a big falling out, and other people would get together, and Helga and Lila have a really complex relationship because
I tell you what,
helped her keep her secret, and Lila's a bit of a player. She kind of manipulates people in her sort of innocent way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'd be fun stuff, but I certainly don't have the answers to that.
I was going to say the Batakis page on the Hey Arnold wiki is the most awful to basically administrate, because basically everyone's putting in like facts, and the problem is there's no source material to.
You know what? I haven't even looked at the Batakis page. I'll have
really?
to go there and see what.
The problem with it is that there's no source material to basically reference it to.
Right,
so basically it's a free for all.
A few tidbits that I've said in interviews, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just, that's the only source material we've got, and and it's awful when they bring in like, oh well, I've heard about this and I came from this source, and then I got to go scrolling through loads and loads of pages in order to do it. It's like it's the life of a wiki animator at the editor.
I doubt it. I really have never said very much about it. What I just described to you is about all that I've ever said.
Really,
Miriam, we really felt like Miriam needed to not be this sort of abused victim anymore, and so we thought that in the Patakis, Miriam comes into her own, and as she and Bob, stick together, she stands up for herself and won't be pushed around anymore.
Yeah.
She goes to 12-step and gets over her alcoholism and is trying kind of living one day at a time as a sort of recovered alcoholic and trying to realize all of her dreams. And so Miriam becomes a more powerful character, and so she's a better mom to Helga too. And then a lot of that would be about Helga and Miriam figuring it out, and Helga and Olga figuring it out. And Olga, we were going to have come home from college and be a struggling actor trying to get parts. And so she's just a really self-absorbed 20-something actress, and Bob, Bob just continues to try to make a living. He's not the beeper king anymore because nobody uses beepers anymore. So Bob had to reinvent himself too. So all of them kind of reinvent themselves, and they also kind of stay the same. Because what I think of when I think of the Patakis is those four actors. They're so funny. I love them. Whenever we had all four characters in a recording session, which wasn't very often, I would say there's only about 4 or 5 times maybe where we had Olga, Miriam, Bob, and Helga in a session.
Okay.
It was always such a blast. They all loved each other, and we'd take these pictures of them as a little family, and they're great, and they're such great. I don't know, Cass Susie, who plays Miriam. She always just did these great, funny, mind-blowing. The one where she and Helga go on the road trip, that was so hilarious. and do you remember at the end she gets thrown off the bull and Helga runs up and says, "Mom, are you okay?" And she goes, "That's exhilarating." That was actually something that she thought of when we got the animation back. Sometimes that happens where we would write the show and record it and storyboard it and send it overseas, and we'd come back and we'd be just editing the thing and locking the picture and getting everything done. And we realized that Miriam needed to say something when Helga came running up and said, "Mom, are you okay?" And she kind of I think originally just was like, "Oh," and her lips were moving enough that it looked like we could get her to say something. And Cass thought of that line, "That's exhilarating," and that changes everything. It's like, instead of her being like, "Oh," she's like, she had a great time. She rode the bull, and it was a blast. So, those actors are super good, and I have no idea what the Patakis would be, but the Patakis would definitely be about all four of the family members reinventing themselves. And Helga, it's really important to me that Helga, she's had such a terrible childhood. And the whole relationship with Arnold notwithstanding, I mean, I know that those two, there are probably lots of years of them just married with kids, and, when someday they get married. I mean, who knows? Maybe someday Helga becomes the first woman president. I don't know. But
Actually, I came
we
up.
saw that in Married, right? So
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that could happen. But if you talk about the Patakis, which is Helga as a teenager, I just think she's going through a lot. She's going through trying to figure out who she is, and I would love to see her parents stop being so terrible and neglectful.
Actually, I was going to ask a follow-up question, because you said there's there were some fans who were trying to has Franny Smith got any political ambitions by any chance?
Does who have political?
Franny Smith.
Oh,
Francesca. Because when they saw Helga as president, it's like, there were some people actually trying to said they wanted to try to urge Francesca to run for president, which I thought, okay, because that's the closest they're going to get Helga into the White House.
She's more of an academic. Franny wants to. She's a professor at USC now, and so
wow.
I picture her having a career teaching. And she's been in school the whole time I've known her. She graduated really at a young age from high school, got her diploma from high school when she was, I don't know, like 13 or something hilarious.
Yeah.
And then she was taking college courses, and she's gone to Pepperdine and Stanford and USC and gotten her master's and all these, she's done a ton of school, and she's finally a professor herself. And so I kind of see her as an academic, someone who will be in the world of teaching for for her whole career. Although
Wow.
she probably will always keep a hand in acting too, but I don't think politics are for her. She's too
Well,
real.
that's good. Okay, my final question in regards to the Patakis is: would Harold and Rhonda have been a couple on the show?
I don't think so. I think Harold ends up with Big Patty.
Really?
I think Rhonda would be in there causing trouble, and the two of them will probably always have funny situations together, Rhonda and Harold. But I think that Big Patty is Harold's soulmate.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, there's I've been reading some fan fictions in regards to basically, who's basically having a relationship with who, and a lot of them go with this love triangle between Rhonda, Curly, Harold,
and Curly.
Sid. There's a lot of people involved.
Who knows, man? Who knows what's going to happen to Curly?
knows?
When Curly is a teenager, I'm scared.
Actually thinking about that, yeah, that is a scary thought.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's what's really fun about it. The characters are real enough now. There's enough groundwork's been laid for about a dozen characters that it would be really funny to see what would happen to them if you put them together in new situations. And that's what we would do.
Yeah. Okay, despite this being a Hey Arnold 16th anniversary special, we've got some dinosaur train questions, would you believe? Some people actually... Some people actually... Yeah, I'm amazed, actually. There's two questions here which came up very commonly, and the first one is in regards to Dinosaur Train. What inspired you to create Dinosaur Train?
It's a great story, and it's one that I've told so much that I apologize to anybody who has heard this one too many times, but... Dinosaur Train had a gestation period of about 16 or 17 years, which is kind of pretty typical, man. I mean, it's the longest one. I waited the longest to make Dinosaur Train compared to the other stuff. But what can I say? Hey Arnold gestated for about 6 years, and the show I'm about to do, I'm doing a pilot for PBS. It's been around for about 10 years, and a show that I pitched to Nickelodeon this week has probably I've been thinking about for about 7 years. So all these stories that finally become a show, it takes a long time, and Dinosaur Train is the longest of all because my son Matt he's 23 now. He just graduated from college this June. He was about 3, so 20 years ago. I was watching him play. He had a bunch of dinosaurs and he had a bunch of trains. And sometimes it was so cool when he was 3. He was a very articulate 3-year-old, really funny. And I'd watch him in his play. I'd kind of just sort of quietly come up and listen to him as he was sitting there. He would put little trains out, and he would put his dinosaurs in like little family and say, we're going to ride the train. And I thought, man, this is so great. In his play, he's putting dinosaurs on trains. And dinosaurs are Every little boy really loves dinosaurs, and girls too, of course. But little kids really love dinosaurs, and they really love trains for obvious reasons. They like dinosaurs because they're like these big monsters that ruled the earth. But in their play, they're in control of these little dinosaur toys that they have, and so it's a really cool, empowering play. And I think trains are the same way. They're really huge and scary, kind of noisy, monstrous things. But a kid can play with them with a little toy train and be in charge of this giant scary thing. And so I thought that I told my wife, if you took dinosaurs and you put them on a train, you would have every 4-year-old at hello, they'd all be like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. So that's my son Matt, when he was 3, inspired me to make Dinosaur Train, and all I wanted to do was come up with a series where that was possible, where dinosaurs were riding on a train. And that's basically it. Every episode has dinosaurs on trains, and you just know if you're that small, if you're 3 or 4 or 5 or so, you're still living in that kind of magical world where that's possible. And so that's who it's for. It's for very small kids that would just love to see dinosaurs on a train.
Yeah, and the last question in regards to Dinosaur Train, is there going to be a Dinosaur Train movie?
Probably. Dinosaur Train is an ongoing franchise that's doing really well, and there's a lot of Dinosaur Train toys, and they're doing really well, and so it makes me think that it won't just end It'll probably go on. And so we would like to do a Dinosaur Train movie. One of the things that's interesting about that is that since the audience for Dinosaur Train is so small, 2 to 6 is really the target for that show. You'd have to have a movie that was able to play in theaters that parents were going to bring their kids to, and there's not a very big market for movies for that young an audience, So the marketing of a movie like that is tricky.
I was going to say, because wasn't there...
TV movies are much more likely, and we've done that. We've done a couple of specials that were sort of, hour-long stories. And
yeah, because if I remember correctly, there was one movie which starred Barney, and that came and went, and then there was Dora Explorer, the movie, and that came and went, and so, yeah, those
are trickier to market because they have to play to very small kids, and exhibitors aren't that willing to do that because, it's easier to pitch a movie to, that's more like right down the middle, like a movie like Shrek or something that's supposed to be for kids from, 5 to adult.
Yeah, I just realized. I think Sesame Street had they had a few movies, didn't they? And
and they do. They come and go, and you don't really.
Yeah, you hear about them. And it's like, oh yeah, it's like, and then you just think, oh, is it gone already? It's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is our last section of the show, so we're about, good grief, an hour and a half. I can't believe we've just done that. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, then, this is any other business. So basically, this is at the end of any business meeting where we basically just address random questions that people have put in and are actually quite common through the emails that we had. So here's the first common question of any other business. With many cartoons going CGI, like Jimmy Neutron and Kung Fu Panda and stuff like that, would you believe Hey Arnold would have worked as a CGI cartoon?
I actually did. I didn't like it as 3D, CGI. There was a promo that we did in the second or third season where Nickelodeon wanted Arnold to be a 3D character that was motion captured. An actor kind of did the moving, but then it translated into a CGI Arnold, and I thought he looked really weird. I didn't like it. The toys where we make Arnold in 3D have always been kind of difficult too. It's just hard to make him into 3D. He's such a strange shape that it's usually kind of disturbing to me to see him in 3D.
Yeah.
And we tried, believe me. I mean, I didn't want Hey Arnold to be CGI, but we tried to make him work in 3D, just like in the stuff that you go through. Like we at some point when we were going to make Arnold toys, we made Arnold in a 3D thing called a maquette, which is somebody sculpted him for me, and I've got that maquette, and it's pretty cool looking, but it's just Arnold's better in 2D.
Yeah, I was going to say because I watched
3D, and the stuff that I'm developing now is in 3D, but if I was going to go back and do more Arnold stuff, I would not go 3D.
Okay, then, because I remember when they did like the cartoons between Jimmy Neutron and the Fairly Odd Parents, and Timmy Turner just looks weird in 3D. It's just like I just can't picture him.
Strange.
Yeah, very strange. Okay, second question: what kind of environment do you like to work in when you're doing your projects?
It's pretty easy going. We don't really need that much. Something to draw on, and every day I'm on my computer, and so I don't really require that much. It's nice when we did Hey Arnold, we were all in the same space and we could see each other every day. It's important to be around the people you're working with and not be off by yourself. But we really don't need that much. It's nice. LA is a great town for this work because we're all kind of concentrated between kind of Burbank and Glendale and Hollywood, and that in a pretty small geographic area, you can find everybody, and it's great. It's a great part of town, and there's a lot of great places to go see each other, go have lunch and stuff. So it's a good environment. This one, that's the kind of environment.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Do you ever read Hey Arnold fan fiction? Watch Hey Arnold fan videos on YouTube? Look at fan art? And if so, what are your favorite fan works?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, we did talk about that a little bit earlier. I don't really read the fan fiction. There's so much of it. It's really endless. And there's a kind of a joke we had when we were In the early days of online fandom, there would be people who would write these, and it was fun. Even when the show was still going on, now those people now would be in their 30s, I suppose. But people who were writing, after a show played, they would write their analysis online, and I would get online and say, "This is great. It's longer than the script itself," because you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We have to be pretty tight, pretty edited when we do our stuff. You know, you're writing an 11-minute cartoon or a 22-minute cartoon. We're pretty hard on ourselves, and we have to edit our stuff down and not go on and on. And the fan fiction, there's no limit. There's no editing. People are just writing these enormous tomes, and that's cool. It's just that I don't really, when I look at it, it's like I don't have time to be able to read this stuff. So I don't really read the fan fiction. It's kind of funny to hear. It's funny when you just hear somebody give you a synopsis. The people that I know that are fans that I'm in touch with, and they'll describe to me what people are saying, and that's enough for me, you know.
Yeah.
And also, I kind of think in a way, I need to kind of stay above the fray and not really be reading all that stuff, because I think it's important to me if I did get a chance to do more Arnold stuff. It'd be better if I didn't really know all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the ideas are still coming from me, and I'm not really just doing what a bunch of people think I should do. You know?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to be independent of that.
Yeah.
I really do like the art, and like I said, it's easy for me to just look at people's fan art. It's just one click away from just seeing an image, and I think that stuff's great. It's really, really wonderful. Specifically, there have been great people over the years. There's a woman in Japan her name is Kinako. Ko Kinako is her name, but she goes by on DeviantArt. It's KNKNKNK.
Oh yeah. I'll
And
try.
she's just fantastic. I mean, you know, when I see her fan art, it kind of takes it to another level. She does these sort of dreamlike compositions that are based on just an episode, where she tries to put the essence of an episode in one image, and they're fantastic. You know, it's so cool. I did happen this year when a lot of these people I discovered this year. You know, I saw Ko's stuff Kinako's stuff at early in the year. She did one that was based on the pilot, and the image is Arnold. It's kind of, you're in his room, and Arnold's kind of hanging on to it as it crumbles away, and he's sort of over the abyss of like outer space. And you remember how in the pilot he's tumbling through outer space, so that's in there, and he's in his room. He's kind of hanging on to this sort of crumbling reality of his room. And then outside the skylight, you can see a gigantic Harold and Helga looking in on him. And the whole thing is like, wow, man, it's like a really cool dream that it's sort of like my dream of the pilot, but that I didn't have, that somebody else had for me. And it also has a cool vibe. Like, it makes me think a little bit of, do you remember the Miyazaki film Laputa, which is the mountain, or the city in the clouds? It kind of made me think of Laputa a little bit too. Anyway, that's just one artist. There's tons of other ones. I'm friends with the Medina sisters, Janelle and Ingrid Medina, and they have their little sister Danielle. The three of them, you know, kind of. I forget how it started. I think Janelle maybe sent me some stuff, some links to some DeviantArt, and then we talked, and I realized that her stuff, she was doing a ton of stuff. She's a fantastic artist too. She does really beautiful stuff, and she and Kinako are doing a Hey Arnold calendar, which if you just basically look both of those two up online, you can probably find your way to how they're making that calendar. I think they're gonna take orders from people and send them out. So everybody should get that Hey Arnold calendar that Janelle and Kinako made. But you know, they're great. And Ingrid, you know, Janelle's sister, does really fantastic art too. And there's so much. I mean, it just goes on and on. Over the years, there were people who kind of aren't as active now. I'm assuming that maybe they become adults and they make a bunch of Arnold art and then they move on and they you know, now they're on to something else. But over the years, there have been some really great, you know, just terrific stuff that's been done. That I just like looking at it. It's really cool. It's really cool to see that people want to they want to respect the canon. They want to do art that looks on model and looks like Hey Arnold, but they also want to they kind of want to express themselves in their own way.
Yeah.
And it's all great. I love all of it. I don't have any.
Are you familiar with the? Are you familiar with the? There was a video on YouTube called the Patakis, which basically shows Helga, kind of moping about Arnold leaving, and then finally makes the decision to go finally look for him, and does. Have you seen that video on YouTube by any chance?
I don't think I have.
Oh, okay. Then I'll post it in the description, and when I post up the episode, so I'll get onto that.
And of course there was the live action Hey Arnold that came out this year as well.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of like Helga basically goes crazy. And that was hilarious, man. I really loved that. And yet, it's not exactly. It's a little bit kind of like a darker, more disturbing thing.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for.
It's kind of what's going on out there. People are growing up and becoming adults and becoming filmmakers, and they just want to do their own spin on it.
Yeah. Okay, next question. When will Helga tell Arnold again about her feelings for him, and at what age would he do it? Or she?
You mean again?
Basically, she said
confession. She
confessed in Hey Arnold the movie, and then would she confess again at another point?
All the time. I mean, if it continued, they would, the cat's out of the bag. She's told him, and so it would come up again and again. I think.
Really?
As soon as Arnold tells her that he likes her back or he loves her back, it would just sort of be happening forever after that.
Yeah. Next question. If Arnold and Helga were to have children, what would they be named?
I don't know. I suppose,
Everyone seems to go with Phil.
Phil and Gertie.
Oh, Gertie. Oh, no.
Beyond that, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah. Next question. I know you're busy these days with other TV shows and events, but after all these years, do you ever find yourself idly thinking about Hey Arnold or its characters?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And kind of, it's sort of impossible for me not to be reminded of it because of so much ongoing, dialogue with people that are fans of the show. People remind me of it all the time, and they're sending me things and links to pictures, and so I'm reminded of it daily. Also, I play the phone app Draw Something.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of games going with people that I know are Arnold fans. So I'm drawing the Arnold characters probably daily on Draw Something.
Oh,
because
cool.
It's just sort of like the joke between us is when we're, the basically Draw Something is you're trying to draw a word that the person you're playing guesses.
Oh, yeah.
And so we do that, and in doing so, we just do it with Arnold characters.
That's good. That's cool.
Also, there's a Draw Something word Arnold, so sometimes I get that word and I just draw Arnold.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Have you ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender or The Legend of Korra, and what do you think of the shows?
Oh, they're really cool. I haven't really seen that much of those. I don't watch a lot of TV.
Really?
And so I kind of don't, it's not, even though I'm even aware, like once I started doing Dinosaur Train for PBS, I thought, I should watch what else is on PBS. Even what's going on, the other shows that are happening alongside me, I barely know what they are because I just don't. In my day, I don't want to watch a lot of TV, and so when I do, I'm generally watching some stuff that I've TiVo'd and once I've watched The Daily Show and The Colbert Report, there's not really that much more. I don't really feel like watching that much more.
Yeah.
And so I don't really see a lot of cartoons. I don't really know what's current on Nickelodeon. I shouldn't even confess that. I should be more up to the minute and know what they're doing, but I don't.
Well, if you want to know, at the moment it's
I'm aware of The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra
because
I know that was something that really worked for Nickelodeon and had big fans, and people liked it, and they liked the characters, and they liked the relationships. So I know that was a big success to them, and that they really care about it. And it's a really, it's a good, cool, high quality show. It's got a really cool look.
Yeah. Next question. Is Stewie Griffin... I don't know why I put this question in. Is Stewie Griffin from Family Guy the son of Helga and Arnold?
Yeah, he's the illegitimate,
Why was this...
when Stewie came out, I was like, dude, that's a football head.
That's what everyone seems to say. It's like, wait a minute. Stewie's kind of like, well, not like character-wise Arnold, but
No.
you can put the two and two together. It's like, yeah.
What can I say? There's not a lot of, there's nothing new under the sun, and when you go to design something, it's pretty hard not to have something look like something else. So,
Yeah. Okay.
Poor Staffy, he had no choice but to copy Arnold when he made Stewie.
Yeah, I think so. But Farland earns you a bit of money, I think. no, I'm joking. Okay, next question. Where are we? Oh, yeah. When was the last time you interacted with people from Nickelodeon?
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Well, these questions just keep coming up, don't they? Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, next question, which I think we've probably been talking about all this time. Besides Dinosaur Train, have you got any other future projects in the pipeline?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I have a lot of irons in the fire. There's a lot of things that could happen, and I'm very glad about that. And I'm getting a little tired of waiting around, to tell you the truth, because this year has been a year, kind of a fallow downtime for me to think about a million things and try to get them going. And unlike other years where all I did was work. And once you're in production, like when I'm back on making, the last order of Dinosaur Train, we made 26 half hours. When you're in production, you're in there in the office every day working on it, and you don't really have a lot of time to be doing like what I'm doing now. So I appreciate the difference between those things. I'll be glad to be getting back to work again. But yeah, we're gonna make a pilot for PBS for another series, which is still hasn't come out, and it's basically an idea that I've wanted to do for probably a decade, and because I'm working with Linda Simensky at PBS, who's an old friend, someone that I've known for since the beginning of Rugrats. I've known Linda for more than 20 years. She worked at Nick, and then she worked at Cartoon Network, and now she's at PBS. And that's why I did Dinosaur Train with PBS. It was something that I wanted to do with Linda. And so Linda and I are going to probably do another series at PBS, which would be for the older block, which is from like that group is kind of from 4 to 9 in age, so it's a little bit more like Nickelodeon's block, and it's a space show, and so it's a show that I've wanted to do for 10 years or so, but because it's at PBS, it'll have a space curriculum, both kind of space and astronomy and earth science and stuff like that.
Oh wow!
And
that's interesting.
But it's a show about kids, and so it takes place in the human world. It's just one of them's an alien.
Yeah.
And it's a show that would probably be more like Nickelodeon age in terms of its kind of like audience and its sophistication. And so yeah, absolutely, I'm pretty excited about that. I hope it goes.
Yeah.
We'll make a pilot anyway, and we'll see what happens. And in talking to Nickelodeon, I pitched a couple of my pet projects that I've wanted to do forever too. So we'll see if maybe I'll do something with Nick too. So maybe that's not even Arnold. Something that's both develop Arnold-y stuff with them and develop something new. So
yeah,
all that sounds pretty promising, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Okay. This is the last question of the show, so let's see what it is. Do you give out senior high school scholarships? And also, do you work with students on their senior projects?
Scholarships? No.
No. Yeah, I was gonna.
I'm not, because there have been in the places where I've worked. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
When I'm working at Henson, they're doing they're like I'm just me, but the places that I work for, Nickelodeon did too. They did all kinds of stuff where they kind of have this cool outreach where kids come in from the schools and they tour and they do they did things like they could shadow you for a day and so on. So like in the larger context of working at Henson and working at Nickelodeon, I have done stuff like that, and I've done. People have asked me to come look in on their stuff and come speak at their school I've people have sent me their projects for me to look at and stuff, and I've always had a little bit of a connection over all these years. There's always been every year there's been something where I've looked in on student projects and stuff like that, and the same thing with college too. Beyond high school, once people are in college, there's a local university, Woodbury University here in Burbank. I made friends with some people that are animation students there, and I've gone and I showed Arnold cartoons there, and I just went to Vancouver to do the same thing for that college, which is two colleges up there, the Van Arts and Emily Carr Art School. Both of them were participating in an animation festival. I just did that a couple of weeks ago. So that's the kind of involvement that I do, and it's people from time to time will just contact me and ask me if I would take a look at their stuff. So those are the kind of things that I do.
Okay, so besides the spam mail, I think there's nothing else to really ask you. So this is
I know we covered it.
Yeah, we covered it all, didn't we? I'll tell you, do you want to answer the spam mail?
Pardon me?
Do you want to answer the spam mail?
Sure.
Okay, then let's have a look. Where is it? It's okay. Here's one. Hello, I'm Nigerian royalty, and I need you to send me money. Please ignore the fact that I can't spell royalty or Nigeria. And also, there's another one here, and it's I'm a Libyan general, and I need you to help us with our resistance, despite the fact that they've already won. And so that's another one. And then there's another one, which is I'm an old widow with $8 million, and I'm sending it to either you/church. It's just
yeah. Sometimes I'll get that. I'll be like, hey, I know somebody who's got $30 million, and they want to do the Jungle movie.
Yeah.
And it's like nothing's. That's
none
not quite
of these are Hey Arnold related. These are just random spam mail, which just seems to have just appeared in my box, and it's just I tried my best to kind of stop that from happening, but I think it's going to just fill up with spam mail now. So I'm going to have to shut down the account, and until maybe we do this again. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a fun 2 hours, and I've really enjoyed it. And so I guess, is there any parting words you want to give our Hey Arnold fans before you go?
Well, it's interesting. It's been an interesting year. I kind of feel like I don't really quite know why it's happening now, but it's more the fandom and the fans' ability to kind of get Nickelodeon's attention seems to be more successful now than it's ever been, and so it was a good year for people to be interested in Hey Arnold and to kind of find out where that's at. And I appreciate the ongoing support. It's really nice to know that people like it that much. It's very flattering. It makes me feel good, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay, so anyway, let's wrap this up. Thank you very much for checking out the Arun Mehta show, this Hey Arnold special. I like to do these every year, with all sorts of people, and also I want to thank the fans for listening to the Arun Mehta show as well. So again, Craig, thank you very much for coming on the show.
You bet.
And for both of us, good night and God bless. Thank you.